Mario. Do I even need to give him an introduction? Practitioner of nearly every sport, delved deep into all manner of games, and overall one of the most iconic and well-received series of platformers, but you probably know all that already. And frankly, he wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for his amazing games, especially the platformers. Going from point A to B, grabbing flagpoles, claiming stars, exploring galaxies, or what have you, you can at the very least expect a good time with all these entries, but putting them all into a top 10 doesn't seem right to me. So to give both the 2D and 3D titles love each, I'm doing a top 5 2D and top 5 3D Mario platformers. Just a couple of rules before I start. For starters, platformers only. No spin-offs, sport titles, side stories like Yoshi's Island or Donkey Kong, etc. These entries will be based on how fun they are, special placement in my heart, the level and power-ups, and other noteworthy features such as visual design or soundtrack. And as always, my opinion is my opinion. My opinion is not fact. So let me know what your favorite Mario games are down below. Anyways, I'm rambling on here. I'll start with the 2D platformers from 5 to 1, then move on to the 3D titles. So let's start with number 5 2D game. Now, to start off the 2D games, you have tons of options and several different generations to go over, many of whom grew up playing these games religiously as kids, and still play them to this very day. One of those games for me has to be New Super Mario Bros. For the DS. With the last 2D Mario game, Super Mario Land 2, released 14 years ago before this, New Super Mario Bros. Had a lot to live up to, and I'd say it succeeded in every way that counted. Yet, at the same time, it went back to basics on what made those 2D platformers fun in the first place. Go right till you reach the flagpole before taking out Bowser or his cronies. Simple yet effective, and surprisingly enough, it helped define 2D and even some 3D Mario games, not just in plot structure, but also in its platforming. The triple jump, wall jump, and ground pound all made their way from Super Mario 64 to this game, and they work amazingly, often used for several difficult and secret areas. Not to mention, it introduced several things that would later become mainstays, such as star coins, cans that take you into further worlds, and secret exits, which take you to hidden areas on the map. And of course, none of it would matter much if the levels weren't fun to go through. Each one spilled with so much creativity and charm, their own challenges of music, and their own design elements, which really helped make it their own. And while a small addition, the icon at the bottom and showing exactly how far you are from the end is a real help and a great motivator to keep you going. Not to mention the power-ups are all awesome. You've got your standard mushrooms and fire flowers and stars, but new additions such as the mini mushroom, letting you cross into tiny pipes or run on walls, the mega mushroom, which destroys everything and drops one-ups after enough items are hit, and my personal favorite, the shell, letting you ride past enemies across the ground and even across hidden compartments of the stage. I can't stress how much this game perfects its platforming. I won't lie to you though, a big factor on why this is on here is pure nostalgia. From starting the game up for the first time, slowly but surely beating all the bosses, and the many secrets found by either exploration, dumb luck, or 2000s YouTube videos, like destroying the goalpost of the Mega Mushroom, running over water and into mini pipes with Mini Mario, and even going to 2 entirely separate worlds through beating the bosses as Mini Mario. While this knowledge is very common nowadays, this was my first real taste of this kind of experience, and stood out to me as some of my favorite moments of gaming for the time. I won't say this does much bad, maybe on the short and easy side, but I can't say it does anything great at all. Guess I just love the other ones a little bit more, I suppose.
New Super Mario Bros. This only happens on Nintendo DS.
Right. Number 4 is a weird case. Not because it's an obscure or unpopular entry or anything, rather, it feels like it shouldn't count. But surprise surprise, Nintendo considers Super Mario Maker a mainline game in the series. Now, the idea of creating levels in a video game, heck even in a Mario game, isn't anything new in the modding or the Kaizo scene, but what helps set it apart from other creators is the charm of it all. This game oozes charm throughout. Not only does it give you tons of options for enemies, level types, timers, etc., but 4 entirely separate game layouts. All of them have their own power-ups, level design, and so much more. Also, you could say a lot of what makes this game great are some of the little things this game has, from items being placed out set in rhythm with the music, shaking items to give them new effects, and elements such as gnats or save stations ripped straight from Mario Paint. This game is just bursting with charm throughout, and it's always a lot of fun to see what levels are created and submit your own levels. There's nothing quite like it. Not to mention the online play. Going through other players' torture, fun ideas, or creative platform challenges, it was a lot of fun to go through and brought a lot of fun moments. And hey, if one level's just a little too much for the challenges, you could always swipe them away for an all-new level, or you could just play through the levels during your own time. And at one point, constant challenges, updates, and events for all new characters, ranging in all manner of different topics. It was all great if you're keeping interest in this game. This game is always fun to come back to and play. Even if it came out when I was a teen, it still had a lot of things to keep coming back and make me feel like a kid again. Although, it's clear that it did have a limited shelf life. So when people moved on from the Wii U, modern day levels seem... it's tricky to come back when there's not much to come back to in the first place. Thankfully, there's still Mario Maker 2, with new design elements, and a new active community, and an entirely new gameplay template altogether. It's still on my bucket list, but here's hoping it's just as, if not more fun than the original game on Wii U. I'm sure there are a lot of games you were expecting to show up on this list, and some games I bet you're expecting as number 2 or number 1, but to a lot of people, you'd be pretty surprised about this. Often considered by many as one of the best 2D Mario games, Super Mario World has a lot of popularity, and I'd say that's pretty warranted. Being a launch title for the SNES, and right after Super Mario Bros. 3, it had to come up with something new. And boy did they. For starters, there's an entirely new world to explore with an entirely new system. There's all new level designs and enemies unheard of from the series beforehand, a new map system with alternating paths, hidden exits, secret passageways, and even pathways that open up after opening up previously explored areas. It's a lot of fun to go through this new world, and being for the new system, you'd expect for better sound quality and graphics, but here, the color palette is so rich, and the music is just amazing, and totally unique when you compare it to other stuff that's come before or since. Mario plays much like his NES counterpart, but with a few more twists such as the new spin jump, which is great for both getting around and taking out enemies. Plus the option to hold on to power-ups when you're hit is a really nice inclusion, not to mention the 2 new power-ups that have become iconic for the Mario series as a whole, such as the Cave Feather, which allows flying around the stage and descending slowly, and Yoshi, who can eat anything, spit fireballs, and counts as an extra hit for Mario. A pity he can't follow you into the castles or ghost houses. I also love the world itself. Finding all the exits and pathways are a lot of fun, and require a lot of creative platforming, but also have nearly everything connected, and being able to see all the other worlds and levels at the same time was a pretty nice touch. Also, not only was this the first game to introduce the ghost houses and castle format, but also secret exits. While they're hidden behind keys here, the idea is still there, and it adds a lot of depth to the exploration, which can even lead you to an entirely new secret world, and yet another secret world on top of that. This game's held up remarkably well, even by today's standards, and even considered one of the best NES and even Mario games. While I do disagree with that segment, it can drag with so many collectibles and exits, and the platform can feel a little slippery. I can see why many people consider it one of Mario's best 2D adventures. While I do love Super Mario World and all its secrets it has, I won't deny that the ones that beat it out are for nostalgia and personal preference. I'm sure anyone past 1997 will disagree with me on this, but New Super Mario Bros. Wii's probably some of the most fun I've had with the 2D platformer back when I was a kid. While it follows your standard Mario level world and format, it's what they do with those worlds that make it important. While there are classic levels in the traditional format, some borrow elements from the DS New Super Mario Bros., but they also add a bunch of new stuff, included but not limited to circling hills, sand eruptions, dark stages, platforms that people can control, and so much more. The game has a little bit of everything and provides a lot of diversity in its stage layout, not to mention saving the captured toads, fending off enemies in the hub world, plus competing for the most points or kills were fun additions that the game introduced. All of these are helped by the 3 new power-ups, the Ice Flower, Penguin Suit, and the Propeller Suit. Ice Flower lets you shoot frozen projectiles, much like the Fire Flower, but can turn foes into frozen statues, which you can toss like a Koopa shell. The penguin suit can do that, plus slide across icy surfaces and have better swimming controls. And the propeller suit gives you an extra high jump, followed by a slow descent down, perfect for long gaps or items just out your reach. And oh yeah, we can't forget, 4 people can play all at the same time. While it's not online multiplayer, but living with 2 sisters and a cool dad meant we always had people playing by my side, playing in turn, causing a lot of chaos. While multiplayer is great in concept, it's not bad, rather chaotic in multiplayer. Being able to toss bows or hit them with shells and ice blocks, snagging coins or power-ups from others, or just straight up being able to throw your friends in any direction makes it a fun blend of bullcrap and fun. This game was loads of fun to play, and apparently so did 30 million other people, not only leaving a big impression on must-haves for the Wii, but also shape how 2D and at one point 3D Mario games should be played on from that moment onward. For better or for worse, depending on how you think about it, you can't deny this game's influence. But influence aside, this game still stands great on its own, and was a must-have for any Wii owner. Now we're finally here, the best of the 3D titles. Unlike the other entries, where I had a long and deep connection with the games, I played this one much more recently, and frankly, I'm surprised I haven't played it sooner. Longtime Mario fans might agree on this, but Super Mario Bros. 3. Whereas both Mario 2s expanded on the formula of the original Mario Bros., I'd say Super Mario Bros. 3 is the true sequel to the original. The graphics, level design, power-ups, and all new ideas make this both its own thing and expand on everything great about the original Super Mario Bros. For starters, while it keeps the going left to right, not only were levels much larger, but had so much more variety and overall had more levels than 1 and 2 combined. With the new, brighter, and more diverse color palette, new obstacles to avoid, and entirely new mechanics, slopes, music boxes, and a crap ton of new enemies that would become iconic from the series from that point onward. It was also the first game to have a world map and level selection, with their own levels, themes, secrets, rebels to break, enemies to fight outside of battle for power-ups, and of course we can't forget about the Toad Houses, also the first game to introduce them. They're a fun breakaway from the game, and are a fun way of getting certain items that you wouldn't normally get anywhere in the levels. And speaking of levels, another thing this game did really well is the level designs and new features. While you got your standard grass, sand, water, and lava worlds, but the game also had a giant world, a pipe world, and so many individual levels that break the status quo, or have fun gimmicks. Much like Super Mario Odyssey, the game heavily encourages going away from the traditional route for additional goodies, with secrets to find, which is a lot of fun, and adds so much to the levels. And the levels themselves really test your platforming skills. There's always something fun and fresh to come back to, and also introduces something new and fun to nearly every level. Not to mention the fortresses where you find Boom Boom and unlock the key for map shortcuts, and the airships where you take on the Koopalings, which provides more of a challenge. There is a lot of variety in the levels, and it's always full of surprises to say the least. And these new levels were great for the new power-ups, which I would personally say are some of the greatest in the series. You've got the Raccoon Tail, which lets you fly, float down, and smack enemies with your tail, the Tanuki, which does that, plus turns you into an invincible stone statue, Frog Suit for amazing jumps and swimming, the P-Wing, which lets you fly forever, Creepo Shoe, which despite being in one level, was a breeze to use and fun to play around with, and the Hammer Suit, which lets you fire hammers, which I could never find. While this game does lack features that later games would introduce, such as star coins and 4-player co-op, the level design, power-ups, and new features that the game introduced makes this my favorite 2D Mario game. And overall, what sets this apart from other entries that follow this format and more, this game is just really fun. Don't get me wrong, the others are great fun too, but this game really felt the most polished and well designed. Mario plays great, the power-ups are super fun, and rarely ever is there a dull moment. It's hard to imagine the entire series without this entry in mind, and frankly, I'm glad I gave it a whirl. So, now we've talked about the 2D games, that's only half of the video. Let's switch things over to the 3D platformers. Same rules as before, starting with the number 5 best. To start off the 3D titles, you have a bunch of fan favorites and personal preferences, mainly because the majority of the games are so different from one another. One of Mario's most unique adventures, and number 5 venture on this list, goes to Sunshine. While you are going around specific levels with stars, or shine sprites in this game, to collect in different areas, with your bosses, red coins, 100 coin missions, etc., but after that, it really starts coming its own thing. Level design, story, look, play, it's very much different from Super Mario 64. For starters, while it isn't much, adding a little bit of story and intrigue throughout the first parts of the game is rather nice, and the new introductions of Piantas, Nookies, and Bowser Jr. are all fun side characters and really help make the game its own. Not to mention, it has a lot of creative and fun ideas for level designs and worlds. From pulling chain chomps into the water to cool them off, the first encounters with Pea Piranha, the secret levels that test your platforming skills without FLUDD, and finding a giant mechanical Bowser on a roller coaster. When this game has creative ideas, they hit it out of the park. Probably one of my favorite new additions to this game was the introduction of FLUDD. Not only was the game and mechanics tailor-made for using him, but it's great for recovery, it's great for long-ranged attacks, and with new power-ups, the rocket and speed nozzles, they're very fun to run around and play with. Also, I gotta give it to the visuals of the game. Well, yeah, it's still a GameCube game that's rough around the edges. Aesthetically, this game's really pleasing. The calm scenery, the bright colors, and the nice little touches such as environmental details, or being able to see other levels off in the distance, helps bring this world to life. All of it was helped by the music. From soothing melodies to catchy beats, this game has it all, really. I love this game, although when it missteps or falls, it falls hard. Watermelon pushing, blue 100 coin missions, I'm a Chuckster Takas, Karenkov Mountain, the Pachinko machine. This game, I swear, has equal parts great and infamous levels throughout. While I wouldn't say they ruin the game, they do bring it down quite a bit, but if you can look past some of the more annoying aspects, you'll come to find Sunshine's one of the most fun and ambitious games out there. Just keep in mind, it's a very different game compared to the other entries. Now, one game I bet a lot of you were expecting here is Super Mario 64. The granddaddy of all 3D Marios, set the precedent of what games could be like on the Nintendo 64, and revolutionized 3D gaming as a whole. And you're right, and also wrong. While I love Mario 64 to death, 64 DS has much more to offer. Hey, Future Jeff here. Before I get into the meat of the segment, I just want to say that while I do have a working DS emulator, I'm experiencing technical problems, and frankly, I don't think you want to see this. That's why New Super Mario Bros. Was all commercials, and as for this game, which showed no ads that showed enough gameplay, credits for this footage go to Typhlosion for President, as well as Sully Pones for the multiplayer footage, and Edge Case Games for the minigame footage. If there's any problems with me using your footage, and if there's any issues whatsoever, I'll find a way to get my own problems fixed and re-upload the segment as soon as possible. But anyways, on with the show! Let me just say this first. I get that a lot of people have their preferences, and people have nostalgia over the original game, but saying the DS remake is inherently bad, or one of the worst remakes ever made over pixelated graphics and D-pad controls, that's a bit too far in my opinion, especially since it added so much new content along with the rest of the already amazing 64. The game already controls great. Long jumps, wall kicks, and jumping all feel great, and the level design are a lot of fun to go through. Sure, D-pad controls and holding Y to run isn't as intuitive as just holding the stick. It's nothing you can't get used to, plus the level designs never made the change that much more difficult. But moving on for the OG 64 levels, what does this version have? Well, for starters, 3 new characters, all with their own special abilities and power-ups. Yoshi with his Splutter Jump and Fire Breath, Wario who can destroy new black blocks and use the metal cap, and Luigi who has floatier jumps, can run on water, and even turn invisible. All of them play great and have their own power stars to collect, and if you ever need to change things up, you can always find the other caps in the levels that you can quickly swap between the characters at any time. Another thing that sets this game apart is the new levels and stars. Each level now has 7 stars total, with 2 new kinds of challenges in the form of Silver Stars and Star Switches, new bonus stars in existing boss and special locations, and even all new levels with their own stars. Rarely does it feel tiring to go back to, or feel repetitive, and it boosts the star count from 120 to 150. Not to mention the free minigames you can play at any time, and the multiplayer where you go up against other Yoshis for starters. For most people, these are just time wasters, but for me and my sisters, and for long car rides, they're pretty fun to go through and play, from the non-gambling poker games to the endless jumping games and the hectic bomb sorting minigame. While I wouldn't consider this my favorite platformer anymore, some levels can get more tedious and simple as go here with this person, but calling it either version bad would just be a flat out lie. I had a lot of fun memories while playing this game, and I still have a lot of fun memories with it now. While I can understand people preferring the original 64 over DS, but in my opinion, both games are pretty valid, and this is my preferred way on playing this N64 classic. So, when making this list, picking numbers 4 and 5 were tough, but for me, 3 games in particular had to make the cut. The first one is one I've already talked before on this channel, Super Mario Galaxy 2. I love this game to bits, but it's tricky not to at the very least reference the first game. Same playstyle, same structure, etc, etc. But the way I see it, Galaxy 2 took many improvements over the original game and tweaked it nearly to perfection. One of these improvements are the power-ups. In the first game, power-ups are rather situational and used only for certain areas. While sure, some like the Spring Mushroom and Rainbow Star are just that, you've also got tons of great new power-ups such as the Cloud Flower and the Rock Mushroom. And of course, we can't forget about Yoshi either, who even has his own power-ups, and is a lot of fun to go through all throughout the game. Another thing that 2 does well are the controls. Pointer functionality never gave me any problems, and in a lot of cases is optional, plus Mario himself doesn't feel unnaturally floaty, yet at the same time, not too heavy either, plus the spin is a perfect way to save yourself from a potential fall. And of course, with great power-ups and controls, there also comes great levels. Linear like the last game, they offer a lot of fun and creative platforming, and a metric ton of new ideas to the table. In terms of galaxies, I'd say they're pretty close to each other. Some of the best include the Grandmaster, Bowser's Galaxy Generator, Star Sign Beat, Tree Trunk, and so much more. Heck, in some cases, I'd probably say 2 has slightly better galaxies over 1. And as always, the music is godlike, with some of my personal favorites including Puzzle Plank, Cloudy Court, and the final battle of Galaxy's Generator. In a way, I sort of like to think of this as the Crash Bandicoot 4 of Mario games. Makes a lot of improvements over the original, yet at the same time, it can feel bloated. Often playing through the same levels again and again for a few differences, crazy wind conditions, and very, very tedious collecting items. I love this game to bits, but it can slow to a crawl when you beat Bowser for the first time with the green stars and challenges. While that definitely brings it down a bit, it's still one of my all-time favorite Wii games, and favorite Mario games for that matter. All the improvements over the original, plus all the new creative ideas and levels, and adding some of the best new power-ups in the series, it made this game guaranteed to show up on the list. Maybe if it was a little more condensed, it would certainly be better, but still, it wouldn't match the other 2 entries which are just godlike. I'm pretty sure you can guess what they are, but the question is, which order? Have you ever looked at a game's first trailer, think it's only okay at the start, but when it comes out with the second trailer, or when it drops out, you're immediately sold on it? This has happened with a lot of games for me, but for number 2, I'd say it's one of the recent and most greatest in that regard, Super Mario Odyssey. While many games claim to be the successor of Super Mario 64, I love those games, but they are mainly doing their own thing. All except for one, the latest and one of the greatest 3D platformers out there, taking the worlds, star collecting, and exploration that 64 had, and amplifying it in one amazing package. But unlike an N64, you're usually placed in a large open setting, where you can get multiple moves at once to get in the next area. You're rarely ever limited on the environment, or certain conditions getting in your way, giving you free reign on playing the game however you want. And thankfully, there are tons of moves to collect and find. While other games may feel bloated by doing the same things over and over, here I'd argue it's a different case, as each moon has you doing something completely new, whether it be solving a puzzle, doing tricky platforming, or rewarding you for finding secrets or odds and ends in the environment. Rarely ever does it feel boring or tedious to go through these stages again and find everything. And of course, the moons wouldn't be the same if it wasn't for the levels themselves. There are so many amazing locations to go through with their own fun, charm, challenges, and locals. As little as provides, a lot of these add to the world. Some of my favorites include the Sand Kingdom, Wood Kingdom, Lost Kingdom, and the Luncheon Kingdom. And of course, we can't forget about Metro Kingdom. It's become a modern day icon for a good reason. Just like in Sunshine, you're not really given any power-ups. Rather, you're playing with Cappy the entire game. And just like him, he controls like a charm, both for fun puzzles with the capture mechanic, an offensive tool, and amazing opportunities for platforming. It also helps that the game plays great, with tight movements, a lot of options for getting around, all culminating in some epic and jaw-dropping moments for the series, from traveling to new worlds for the first time, the first Metro Kingdom Festival, and the amazing final level where you get to control Bowser himself as the move collapses. This game has a lot to love in it, plus the many hats and costumes Mario can wear can truly help make this game stand out as one of a kind. Some may argue this game can drag near the end, and I can feel it a little after being Bowser. I still think this game is almost godlike. It was rather close between this one and number 1. Some of you might already have guessed by now. What else could it be? Now, while I have talked about this game before, there's just so much stuff that I didn't even cover in that video. I love this game to bits, and there's so much of this game that I love and cherish. So let's get all the negatives out of the way first, because all of them needed, I guess. Well, some purple coin missions can be annoying, that's about it. On to the positives. While it has several elements from Galaxy 2, there's a lot to talk about in this entry. For starters, this game looks incredible. The different levels are all great, the textures and backdrops look so good, and even holds up today in terms of visuals, despite being released well over 10 years ago. Mario plays incredible, and is probably my favorite controls out of all the 3D titles. The long jump, wall jump, and backward somersault are all here, and we also can't forget the trusty spin. From taking out enemies to covering gaps, this game really gets a lot of great use out of this. And they're great for the level design. Sure, there are some repeating elements here and there, but all of them have their own unique missions, locals to talk to, and secrets that make them all stand out on their own. While some are clearly better than others, there's only a handful of galaxies I don't like, and the ones that are great really hit the hammer on the head. Freeze Frame, Matter Splatter, Good Egg, Toy Time, Gateway Galaxy, and so much more. Even the single star galaxies are a lot of fun to go through as platforming challenges. I could gush for days on how nearly every level has something fun to them. And sure, some of the power-ups are kind of one note, and the spring mushroom is hard to get used to, but when they are used, they feel great, and are used for so much more than just another attack. Plus, some of them like Bee Mario and Ice Mario are my favorite power-ups to this very day. Not to mention, do I need to mention the music? The orchestrated score is so incredibly rich, with so many genres, it never gets old, nor does it feel like a single dud in the soundtrack. Gusty Garden, Space Junk, Battle Rock, the final showdown, and that's just the tip of the iceberg here. Not to mention, annoying missions that previous Mario games had, like the red coins and 100 coin levels, aren't a thing here. And sure, some people prefer the open exploration of Sunshine at 64. I'd say here, this game works as a test of platforming, and never did it get tiring to be told where to go. While the game was claimed to be a successor to Super Mario 64, I'd say it would surpass even that title in terms of gameplay, level design, and one major selling point, story. Now, I know, in hindsight, it is rather basic compared to other major story-driven games, but what it does bring to the table, and for the game that it is, it's a welcome change of pace. With the epic cinematics at the beginning and the end, the lore behind the grand stars, Bowser being treated like an actual cosmic threat, and of course, Rosalina. Debate about which princess is best all you want, but Rosalina made a fantastic first impression. Her motherly personality, her role in the world, and her tragic backstory, which expands later on throughout the story, it just adds so much to the world. I know I gush about this game a lot, and some other Mario games do things better, but with everything this game sets to do, I'd say it's nearly unmatched. From the levels, to the music, story, and character, to me, there's no context. Don't get me wrong, I love all the games here, and they're all great to go through, but in the end, Galaxy, in my opinion, just perfects nearly every detail that I love about Mario, and ranks as my favorite video game to this very day. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't go away just yet, because I have 2 honorable mentions for both lists, for New Super Mario Bros. U and Super Mario 3D Land. I played both these games a lot when they came out, and they have tons of fun little details and improvements over the other games that they're loosely based on. but what they make up for in fun civil platforming, they lack in overall time spent. While I have played them both from beginning to end, those were years ago, and I wouldn't say neither game did anything remarkably groundbreaking or super fun like the other entries. But hey, with this nifty DS emulator, and my sister getting New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, I'll likely be playing these games a lot more, and I'd say there's hope for them to possibly make the cut later in the future.